Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine, and it's another playlist video. And this time, I've gone all the way back to 1972, and I've picked 8 albums. I know that my new regime of doing these playlist videos is supposed to be 7 because it's 7 albums, one a day, my weekly playlist. But this one creeped into being number 8. Yeah, that's about right, I think. And it's 1972. And I've tried not to pick obvious albums for me. So Machine Head isn't in here. And Argus isn't in here by Wishbone Ash. I just said Machine Head Deep Purple, didn't I? Because there's always Deep Purple. But I've decided not to do that for this particular one because I've got a big video on Machine Head planned. So I've picked things that were have become, well, important because of what else I was listening to. Some are transitional records. Shall I just start? Yes. The first one is Slade, and the album Slade, 1972. I was a massive Slade fan. I am a massive Slade fan. You have to be careful now with the internet because everyone goes, "What do you mean you were?" But you could say that back then because Slade, T-Rex, The Sweet, Mott the Hoople, all these kind of bands were transitional in a way to get into the music that the big kids at school were listening to. And Slade was one of the first albums, really. I mean, Slade on Stage came out around 72, didn't it? Slade Alive even came out. Slade on Stage is a different album. Slade Alive came out in 72, which was a very raucous live album. I could have picked that. But I decided on this one because of, well, obviously you've got Move Over, which was Janis Joplin. How many of us back then knew that? I didn't. But it was mainly Mama We're All Crazy Now, but Goodbye to Jane. Because I remember that being on Top of the Pops, and I think we got there was some family round, and I always tried to watch Top of the Pops while my dad was like doing the washing up, because if he came in, he'd only sort of point at people with long hair and say they looked like girls, and it was outrageous, and they'd never get a normal job. And Slade kind of ticked a lot of those boxes, and I just loved the chorus of that song and the guitars and everything. And it was on, and I remember I could hear my dad finishing off with the washing up, thinking, just there must be another dish to dry, because they're just getting going. I remember my uncle came in, and then my dad came in, and I was just trying to absorb myself in the music. My uncle said, "Do you like this? Do you like this kind of stuff?" And I was going, "Yeah, it's all right." I just wanted to say, it's the best thing I've ever heard. It's the most exciting thing I've ever heard. Changed my life. So I thought I'd go back to that. So that's the vinyl one, and it's actually a reissue with the splatter vinyl. But I would also recommend this if it's still available, which comes with oodles of bonus tracks on the CD. So that's the one I'd suggest. Do you want to see the splatter vinyl? Am I not doing my job properly if I don't show it you? Okay. For those of you listening on the podcast won't know what's going on there. Look. Slade, 1972. Splatter vinyl. Okay. Next on my playlist from 1972. Where should we go now? This is CD only. I don't have this on vinyl. Well, I kind of have part of it on vinyl. What am I talking about? Pink Floyd. Most of us, me, thought that there was metal and dark side because we didn't know anything else happened in 1972. We knew about metal, we knew about One of These Days because of the Ogre Whistle Test, and we knew about dark side because everyone had got it. But something happened in 1972, and I stumbled across this single in Smiths called Free For. The gold, it's in the ... There it is. Look at that. How exciting is that? It's an Italian pressing for those of you who want to know about such stuff. It's an ex-jukebox one as well, based on the middle thingy. Anyway, I never found it on vinyl, but I have got it on a Japanese CD, showing off a bit really. But I think it features some of David Gilmour's finest guitar playing. I know it's a soundtrack. It's probably why it's not seen as pure Floyd, and I don't. So it doesn't always get mentioned, does it? But to me, it's one of the hidden gems of the Pink Floyd catalogue that should be talked about more. And it is David Gilmour is just shining so brightly on this album, Obscured by Clouds from 1972. And there we are, Obscured by Clouds. And I waited ages to get a copy. Of course, I've got the Pink Floyd box set and it's in there as well. But yeah, I think it would be good to have a vinyl version for completeness, I guess. But at the moment, I'm happy with that. Right, what's next? Next will be, I do have on vinyl, Roy Gallagher, live in Europe. Gatefold sleeve. I know the Irish tour, 74, is the one that everyone, moves towards as being one of the finest live double albums from that decade. But this is the one that has the magic to me, because it was my friend Craig lent it to me because he wanted me to tape it. I was one of the first people to have a tape recorder where you could tape stuff on it, and he lent it me. Said, "Can you tape this for me, Phil?" And to me, it was also my introduction to Rory Gallagher. You can never have too much Rory Gallagher, as well you know. But I do think that this was such a wonderful selection of music, and I have it on CD as well. I think, did the CD come with an extra track? Yeah, it did. Came with What in the World and Hoodoo Man are the two bonus tracks on it. But I think it was perfect in itself because of Messing with the Kid. Messing with the Kid. Da, 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 da. Oh, it's great, isn't it? Laundromat, I could have had Religion, Pistol Slapper Blues, Going to My Hometown, Bullfrog Blues. 1972, a single album. It's quite unusual back then for live albums to be single affairs, especially in 1972. I think they came more single album releases towards the end of the decade, but it's quite unusual. But of course, in 2 years' time, a double was about to appear. But yeah, Live in Europe is, I think, there's something magical about it. That photograph of Rory, the battered Strat, the way he's holding it with the slide and everything, and wonderful stuff. Live in Europe by Rory Gallagher. Next, I'm going to go to Status Quo. So is this another transitional band from the golden age of Slade and T-Rex and Sweet? No. This was a real building blocks towards me heading towards the big rock bands of the 70s. But I think that the Status Quo kind of like brand and everything has just bounced back in wonderful stature. This period, yes, I know, Greasy Spoons and Dog of Two Head, and I know, but mainly Pile Driver, Hello, Quo, On the Level, Blue for You, and the live one. That is the canon of Status Quo. But this one, I mean, just look at that picture. You know what this sounds like without putting it on. You know that what kind of music this is going to be. Glorious gatefold sleeve. It's when they started doing from the makers of at the bottom as well. Don't Waste My Time. Fantastic. Oh Baby. Wonderful melancholy track, that. A Year, Unspoken Words. Big Fat Mama. Paper Plane. That was the single. When I was listening to Sweden's T-Rex and everything, one of my friends said to me, "You got to let Paper Plane. That's what you should be listening to." The Quo, All the Reasons, and Roadhouse Blues. Of course, I didn't know who the Doors were, and I still think Quo did a better version of Roadhouse Blues. That might be a bit sacrilegious, but I just like it. Even on the Quo Live one from 1977-ish. Yeah, it's fantastic. And of course, bear with me, those of you who think I've gone quiet, that classic, sci-fi label from Vertigo Records. I know some people want to see the Spiral one, but I always thought that had the edge. The Vertigo one with the spiral thing, I was a bit too young for that. So by the time I got into music, they'd all disappeared. Although there it is in the corner. But classic Quo. So what would I recommend? I would recommend the 2 CD version if you can find it. This has BBC Sounds of the 70s from 1972, John Peel session, and BBC in Concert at the Paris Theatre from 1973 is on there as well. Next is I'm going to go to another CD, I think, for this. Yes. And it's Jim Kapaldi on Oh How We Danced. I've got this on a CD as well, which is also with Whale Meet Again. Clever, but not such a good album as this one. The reason why I bought this was not because I was a huge Traffic fan at the time. It's because I was desperately in love with anything that Paul Kossoff went anywhere near. And I'd heard that he played a session on this record. And of course, it was on various compilations and stuff. But this is an interesting story for me. I mean, if you look at some of the pictures on here, there's a picture of, you won't be able to see them all, I'm sorry, but there's a picture of Jim Kapaldi in his kitchen with a mop and stuff like that. These are so un-rock star images. They're just like pictures of them struggling musicians. This would never have gone out now. It would have been airbrushed and Instagrammed to death. But as I listened to where Paul Kossoff was on this record, and he's on How Much Can a Man Really Take, etc., because I was listening to it, there's a track called Don't Be a Hero. And the guitar solo is by Dave Mason, although the way the credits are written, it says guitar solo, comma, Paul Kossoff. And I misread that. And I'm not the only person who did that, because the guitar solo from Dave Mason is so moving and so emotive and draws you in. And it's so connected to the way that Jim Kapaldi sings this song with such grace and such power and such soul that it just takes you right to the edge of literally tearing up. And Dave Mason's guitar solo just dovetails into the way that Jim Kapaldi sings this. And the first thing you think of is, that's Kossoff. That has to be Kossoff. And it isn't. And I think it was when I was talking to David Clayton, who runs the Free Appreciation Society or fan club, and I said, oh wow, that's solo. And he said, Phil, that isn't Kossoff. It's Dave Mason. He said, but other people think it's him as well. But it is just amazing. So that's Oh How We Dance from 1972 by Jim Kapaldi, also featuring Paul Kossoff. I'm going to stay with Paul Kossoff. I'm going to go to Free at Last. The most 70s bit of fontage going on there on the front cover. I know some people who didn't buy this album because they thought the fonts kind of put them off. It drew me in. It was a bit like the TV program Magpie. It's not maybe seen as the best of the Free albums to some people, but to me, because Free are so high on my measure of music that I love, I can't really be subjective about it. What I can be subjective about it is that the band themselves had their photographs taken without anybody bothering about making sure they look their best. I mean, Kossoff doesn't look very well on this cover. He's smiling, which is good, but he just looks as if he's just hasn't bothered to even wash his hair or anything. But the songs. Catch a Train, great rock song. Soldier Boy, beautiful. Magic Ship. This is where they're doing more with mellotrons and keyboards, and this songwriting partnership between Fraser and Rogers is building up these emotional roller coaster songs. Really, Sail On with that Hammond organ that comes in. How cool is that? Traveling Man, great rock song, and A Little Bit of Love. It should have been a much bigger hit single than it was. You see, it was a hit single, but Rogers' voice there, the ease that he sings and the joy in his heart, he's talking about everyone just needs a little bit of love. It's the song for 2025. I just love that song. Guardian of the Universe is reflective. And these songs, Guardian of the Universe, Child, and Goodbye, are all songs that helped me through that decade. These songs carry such weight, such power, such emotional oomph in their wings. Just to think that these are 4 young kids writing music like this. There is a version on CD with multiple extra tracks on it. But trust me on this, the 2016 version, which has no extra tracks, is probably the best sounding version of the album. But listen to Child. Just the way that when it goes towards the end and the kind of reverb kicks in, it's just like snuggling up next to the band in the studio. It's superb. So, Free at Last is another one. And there are just 2 to go. One of them is only available on CD. Well, to me, it is in my home. So I'll leave that one till last. The next one is Jimi Hendrix, In the West. First ever Jimi Hendrix album I ever bought. And it was the first Jimi Hendrix album I ever bought because of one track, Johnny Be Good. I heard this and I just thought it was amazing. Up to this point, I found Jimi Hendrix really inaccessible. It's just like a wall of noise I couldn't latch onto. Think about it for me. I'm into choruses, I'm into riffs, I'm into songs that have structure like that. You know, Purple, Zeppelin, Sabbath, Slade. And Hendrix just felt like more fluid. I couldn't like latch on to what was happening. Obviously, I could latch on to rock and roll. And Johnny Be Good was a rock and roll 12-bar song, but the way that Hendrix plays that solo as it keeps coming round with each loop to continue it, I was mesmerized. So I took a gamble, and this is the album I bought, and it didn't disappoint. Primarily because of Red House. Maybe not the best version because it's brilliant, but there are so many versions of it. It had the Queen, the National Anthem, Little Wing, and Voodoo Child. Although I have to say I've always preferred the studio version. So I was very excited to eventually get that on CD, and then realised when I listened to it, there was something not quite right with it because they've messed around with the tracks are from different sources. They've added things, taken some things off because of other reissues. So to me, this is not really Hendrix in the West. It's a different version of Hendrix in the West, and perhaps it should have been called that. So I still play the vinyl. And finally, for this week's playlist, and I would like to have this on vinyl. I've never been able to find one. It's Mountain live, and it's The Road Goes Ever On. It's a single album, as I've just a few moments ago said. There weren't many single live albums in this period. Well, there's another one, and the reason why I like this, I know Long Red's okay, Waiting to Take You Away, Crossroader. Nantucket Sleigh Ride, 17 minutes and 38 seconds long. I know there are other versions of that track live, but this to me is the best one. This is the best version of that track. Obviously, it's a whole side of vinyl if you've got the vinyl version, which I don't have. And even this one, it was this Leslie West, Felix Kapaldi, Corky Lang, who I've interviewed. How lucky am I? And Steve Knight on keyboards. Fantastic. If you have this on vinyl and you haven't played it for ages, just get in touch. But this is a BGO Records CD release, so even that's a bit old, isn't it? So I don't know if it's been reissued since then or whatever, but I love that. I love that album. I think it's my favourite Mountain album, I would say. Anyway, That has been my playlist for this week, all from 1972. Let me know what you've been playing. If I've encouraged you to go zooming back in a time machine to 1972, let me know what you'd probably play. If you've been playing things from 1992 or 2022, let me know in the comments. It's great to know what you've been playing. It's always inspiring because I always discover new things as well. But anyway, thanks for staying the course and watching this. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for all of you who've become patrons and YouTube members. It really does make a difference. So thank you again. And those of you will know that you can also join the private WhatsApp group and the private Facebook group and come along to our own private pub called the Now Spinning Arms, which meets virtually twice a month. But remember, music is the healing doctor. Please take care, everyone. And I'll talk to you all very, very soon.